One of the issues I think I had when I was trying to find an artist on Fiverr was that they weren't from our community. They didn't really understand what I was looking for because they're not in our community. So I think that bringing that to bear for you guys is where, you know, a lot of the success comes from, because they understand exactly what it is that we're looking for just by virtue of the fact that they're in that culture and understand us.
100%. That was, that was even before we started doing the custom stuff. You know, Brett and I would have ideas for designs, but I'm not artistic, and I'm certainly not I'm not a graphic designer and stuff. And I contracted some people on Fiverr and would go back and forth, and you've got the language barrier and some of that kind of stuff. It's twofold, right? Like there's the actual language barrier because these folks might be in India or Ukraine or whatever. And then there's just the language barrier of like the military. Or aviation or whatever, and like the acronyms and the bullshit that we use on a day-to-day basis, where, you know, my wife used to call me out if we're all hanging out drinking and we're like dropping all these words and stuff. She's like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And so that, you know, as we've grown our graphic design team and stuff, it's a requirement that the individual has either, like Brett said, served or is perhaps a mil spouse or whatever, and is familiar with the lingos and like even like what is a unit, what does BCO mean? Like the normal person, like BCO, what is a BCO? Like, you know, we don't have to really train anybody up on that kind of stuff because they're part of the community. They understand, it's second nature to them. And like you said, I think that helps alleviate a lot of the pain that some other processes may have in like these larger scale, like in general, custom apparel type stuff for all types of organizations. I mean, our stuff is pretty much niched down to, you know, military and a little bit of LEO and some other things like that. So they all speak the language, and it's easy to conceptualize and bring to light versus the back and forth and, you know, trying to learn on the job type of deal, which, you know, I think helps streamline the process a little bit. You
bring the language up, and I laugh because that was one of my issues with one of them. Like I just got frustrated and gave up. I'm like, yeah, it looks great. Like I didn't want to deal with him anymore. So I just told him it was fine.
Yeah.
And it sucked.
Yeah.
You know? I think he was in Mexico, and God love him, he's trying to communicate in English. So I give him credit, but man, it was really bad and it didn't make any sense. And I'm trying to like decipher what he's saying. It just did not work. And the art did not like match at all what I had in my mind. So, yeah, I think what you guys are doing there is rock solid.
Thank you.
Jeff,
Thank you.
With RPD, you guys had a really cool shirt. And our shirt is kind of a meld between what Riverside PD had with what my agency had and the podcast. So Riverside PD, the back of their shirt is a Ace of Spades card, and then it has Riverside PD's, I think it's their logo in the middle of the shirt.
It has our pilot wings in the middle of it. Yeah. And that was an original patch that was done in I want to say the early 80s. It was right after we got the MD500s. And so they came up with a patch, and, you know, the Ace card, of course, you know, is the death card, and, you know, from Vietnam and all that kind of stuff. So, but the guys that originally designed it with the Ace card and the ACE stood for Aerial Crime Enforcement. And so that's why that's there. And so when we were originally looking at designing a new design, because we had a patch, or not a patch, but a unit logo that was kind of similar to that. But what we had the state of California in there with the star over Riverside, which is from our department patch. And then we had an MD500 flying, you know, like superimposed over it. And of course we were now flying an airplane. We were looking at getting, new aircraft in the future. So we knew we wanted to get rid of the aircraft specific, stuff on the design. And we had a guy in the unit at the time that was the one that was kind of looking to and working with a local artist or whatever he was doing. And so he was taking input from everybody. And I had one of our original patches with the ace of spades on it with the helicopter. And, I said, hey, I'd like to incorporate something from this into the new logo to kind of bring it back to, kind of a throwback to that. And so that's where we came up with that logo. And then instead of having an aircraft on it, we just put our pilot wings on there, which has our badge in the middle. And, it was well received. And it was everybody from the unit, just like when we designed our unit coin, same thing. We took input from everybody in the unit. Hey, I was tasked with coming up with the design because I was getting ready to leave the unit. And so our lieutenant for our 50th anniversary wanted me to, take that project and work on it. But again, I submitted, the ideas to everybody in the unit so that everybody had some buy-in on, hey, this is, everybody could be proud of it. I was just the guy that was throwing the ideas together and sending them to the guy that was making the coins for us. Similar, situation. I have absolutely no artistic background whatsoever. So I was working with him and telling him, hey, this is what we're looking at. This is what we want to do. And that's how they came up with the design. And so having somebody that's, responsive, like, your graphic art team is, to taking an idea and then, putting it into something that somebody can look at and go, yep, that's what I'm talking about, is huge. Because a lot of us don't have that ability or that skill. When I came here to Air Evac, our base, they wanted to come up with a base patch, and the same person that I used for the coins, I used for the unit patch. But when I hit him up and I said, hey, I have no ability to design a patch like whatsoever, and he put me in contact with his graphic artist, who then told me about the Canva app, and I use that to kind of come up with the ideas and put things together and just kind of spitball it out to everybody. And again, we came up with a design that everybody agreed on, and then we sent it to them. They finalized it, and boom, now we got unit patches. So, and it's huge in our industry. It's a small, just like in Army aviation, it's a small community of people that do what we do, and having pride in that, and having that T-shirt on under your flight suit, even though nobody else can see it, is a big thing for morale for, the unit, having flown in Army aviation and seen what morale can be like, good morale. And a lot of it comes from just simple stuff like that. Back when I was in the early 90s, they did, well, it was before that, but they did away with, we used to have unit morale hats. And so in Army aviation, so guys like in the medevac, we had a maroon baseball cap, and guys would put their rank and their wings on it, and that was something that you were allowed to wear with your flight suit. Well, then along comes some general that says, no, we're not doing that anymore, that's unprofessional, take it away. They took it away. Years later, we had a commander that came in and said, no, we're reinstituting the morale caps, and it lasted all of about 1 month, and then some other general found out about it and was like, nope, get rid of it. And I mean, you might see a pattern developing here where, like, we used to wear one-piece flight suits in the Army, and then, years later, somebody said, no, Army aviators need to look like everybody else on the battlefield. And next thing you know, we're wearing two-piece camouflage flight suits. And, that's a huge morale thing, because there's so few people that do what we do. And, that flight suit is a symbol of everything that you've done up until that point to get through flight school, to get to RO1 flight status as a crew member. And so, just like, special forces having, green berets and Rangers having tan berets, we won't talk about the black berets, but again, there's a common theme in the Army of, taking away morale items from, troops. And then, it's a sad, commentary, but just having that, T-shirt that maybe it looks like every other person's, tan T-shirt under their uniform, but then when they take it off and they've got, some cool logo that makes them a part of that particular organization is huge for people. And we were the same way in law enforcement. I mean, we couldn't run around wearing, ace of spade, cards on our outer gear, but, having that black T-shirt on underneath our flight suits, so that when we were back at the hangar and we took off our tops, we had this, cool, logo to be proud of. and we had a huge logo in our hallway of that, a big wall, logo. Yeah, it was a big deal. It's a big deal for units that are specialized to have something like that. And, for you guys to be able to do that in a way that makes it easy, like you said, for these units to just, or members of the units to just call up or log on and order something that, they want is huge. Cause, I know in our unit, it was really hard because like the unit sergeant would order stuff out of some sort, I don't know, some kind of, money that he had in his budget, he would use to order those shirts. Well, then it was more for like handing out to people like, in the city, people that could help us with, acquiring equipment and stuff. They would use it, for those kind of things. We had mugs and shirts and hats and whatnot. But when we wanted to order something, we had to come up with the money and then, make a bulk order. So it's nice to be able to just be like, oh man, I need a couple new t-shirts, or I want a sweatshirt or whatever, go on to Brotallion and order it and you're done, super easy.